Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur. Before we begin, I'm sorry if there's any humming in the background. I am saving for a digital camera. I do want to upgrade my equipment, but other expenses must come first, including like a good $500 to get a filling in a tooth because a whole chunk of my filling fell out. So I know that the surface is creating a humming noise. I'm sorry, not a lot I can do about it. I got to make my videos. So anyway, what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to talk about something we've never discussed on this channel before, and that's an app called Slack. Now, some of you may be wondering what Slack is. Slack is a communications app that basically I would call it AOL 2.0, or AOL Instant Messenger 2.0 to be more precise. You might be wondering what that is. For those of you who are fairly young, AOL Instant Messenger was one of the first communication tools for computers and the internet. You would open a box and you type in someone's username and you'd write a message back and forth. It wasn't public like Facebook or Twitter is. It was just between you two people. And the whole concept of it seemed to more or less go away as email and Facebook and Twitter and even cell phones became way more prominent. But a new app called Slack has kind of revived the concept, put a little refinement on it where you can invite certain people and create certain groups, and it's being used for the workplace environment. Now, how entrepreneurs use this? Well, if you're like me, for example, and you have like editors and stuff that are living separately and you're mostly working from home, you can send a Slack message instead to that person. And because that person is getting a message from me through Slack, they know it is work related, and thus they know that that is important. There's other tools like Viber that I was using and stuff like that, but Slack is a pretty good one for most people, and businesses use it to communicate with people inside the same building, particularly warehouses. Well, apparently I'm not the only one who finds that concept to be of great value, because they have just done another round of fundraising and now their company is worth over $7 billion. According to TechCrunch, Slack, the workplace communication platform, has taken off like a rocket since launching in 2013 and now has more than 8 million daily active users and 70,000 teams paying to use it. Now, the startup of the same name has closed in its latest round of funding to fuel its growth. The company said it has raised another $427 million in a Series H round that values it at over $7.1 billion, led by Dragoneer Investment Group and General Atlantic. Other investors in this round include T. Rowe Price Associates, funds advised by Wellington Management, Bailey Gifford, and Sands Capital, along with unnamed investors. Quote, Slack is an exceptional company that is revolutionizing the way people collaborate, and we look forward to a long-term partnership with the Slack team as they continue to grow business, said Mark Stad, founder and managing partner of Dragoneer, in a statement. Before this round, Slack has raised $841 million with its 40 or so previous investors, reading like a who's who's of the VC world, including a number of individuals, as well as the firms SoftBank, Excel, Kleiner Perkins, GV, DST, Index, Anderson, Horowitz, Social Capital, and many more. Its most recent round before this was a SoftBank-led $250 million round at a $5.1 billion valuation, pointing to a huge leap in Slack's price since September 2017. Over the years, there have been a number of startups and larger tech giants attempting to build workplace communication platforms, but Slack appears to have been the right platform at the right moment. The public appetite for social media and using digital platforms to communicate has exploded in recent time, and Slack's easy interface, combined with the ability to integrate just about any other piece of software or app that you might be in your office into its conversation stream, has helped take it up. This has not come without a sharp rise in competition, with the likes of Facebook, Microsoft, and others all developing their own platforms to take it on, either because they see an opportunity to jump on the trend to gain new customers and revenue streams, or to hang on to those that it already has, and possibly before Slack snaps them up. And yeah, they have every right to try. And things like this, it seems like they should be better features than individual products, but the public has a really funny way of deciding what can hold outside of an integration platform and what will be better off integrating with a product. For example, I remember when Dropbox was beginning to be a big thing, and Apple wanted to buy Dropbox, or they wanted to partner with them or something, and Dropbox said no. And Steve Jobs created the iCloud specifically to put them out of business, and he pretty much said that, yeah, the cloud is a feature. It's not its own individual business. And yet, Dropbox is still very, very profitable and very popular, and still widely used, more so than Google Drive, OneDrive, and especially iCloud. And that's amazing. That is amazing. So people found enough value in Dropbox itself that it survived outside of this. And even though I think Facebook and Microsoft will make their own versions of Slack, I suspect that Slack might still have a lot of value to people outside of it because people do want it to be its own product. And also, here's the thing. Slack is a communications tool. And that gets people feeling really funny about it when it's used for employment and work purposes. Because if it's integrated with Facebook and Google and Microsoft, it can also be integrated with the social networks and Xbox Live and stuff that basically connects employer to employee, and there has been a much bigger emphasis than ever before. No, when you go to work, your employer is your employer. He's not your friend. Don't friend him on Facebook. Don't let him follow you on Twitter. Keep that distance. Keep that private life private. And then when you leave the company, if you ever decide to do it, or they leave it, then you can be friends with them if you want. And that's where Slack has a huge advantage over all of these other companies. Slack is its own little bubble. And in fact, the people that I'm currently doing some work for on a very part-time basis use Slack. And, you have to have a company email address to get into the groups, and it only communicates with each other within the warehouse. And it's very, very useful. It's very, very useful. So much so that I downloaded Slack. And again, when it comes to people I'm working on some big projects in the background that you don't see, but I have been using Slack to communicate with those people, and it has been a godsend. Now, if you are just driving Uber or DoorDash or something that you're doing just by yourself, you definitely don't need Slack. But if you get big enough where it's like, I want to grow as a brand, or I want to make a company and I want to hire people, but I'm working from home and they're working from home, emails can be super ineffective because, you'd think people would respond to them faster, but they just don't. But having Slack, it's an instant messenger app, and they will talk to you directly, and that is why it is so effective. Now let's continue this article. In previous rounds, Slack CEO and co-founder Stuart Butterfield has said that the company raises opportunistically. That is, it doesn't have to raise money because it's already making money and it still has some in the bank, but as long as VCs are knocking, it's worth taking the funding if it's coming in at good valuations, because you never know what might lie ahead. That ahead appears to be now. The company did not specify how it plans to use this funding in the short statement it sent to TechCrunch, we're asking, but it's been buying up competitors like HipChat in a bid to scale up and consolidate, in addition to revamping up its own offerings to target bigger and more lucrative customers beyond the smaller businesses and startups that helped the company get its start. Quote, Slack has made strong progress in a very short time in this new era of enterprise collaboration. Our investment represents our belief in the company's vision and leadership team, together with the product's potential to increase productivity and change the way people work on an even larger scale. Allen 2, equity research analyst, T. Rowe Price Associates, Inc., in a statement said, quote, there's still enormous potential to change the way people and organizations collaborate and work together, Slack noted. And the funniest thing about this is that this really does prove that old saying, what's old is new again. I brought up AOL Instant Messenger. That's pretty much what Slack is, but it's more refined. You can have groups, you can have direct messages, and it's more polished. You can share files, and you can have, for business purposes, you can store how many conversations over how many years if you want to pay for it. Actually, it's even particularly useful because one thing that can be done is if you are using it with employees or partners, if there's a complaint like, oh, I was, sexually harassed or some inappropriate comments were made. This used to be a thing with AOL Instant Messenger and why a lot of companies eventually banned it from the workplace, because people would send suggestive stuff at AOL. And unless you had the foresight to print it out or keep it up while you got the HR, you could lose it if you closed that box. Now, that is not the case. You have so much of the history there to keep. And if you pay for it, you can have the entire history to keep. So that is beneficial. Now, I've already explained how this is useful to entrepreneurs. If you are an entrepreneur and if you're working with other people, this is definitely highly recommended. If you're just working for yourself, it might not be as important. However, it could still be useful if, say, you want to talk with someone in a secure but private, insulated area where you could say, hey, contact me on Slack. And you could put the Slack channel up, and fans or other people can contact you directly. And no personal information is shown. They're just communicating with you. That could be useful as well. But it's kind of nice to see apps like this kind of bring that old tradition alive again. And I'm interested to see what happens with Slack. But my question now is for you. Do you have any use for Slack? Have you ever heard of Slack? Do you use it? If so, what for? I would love to know. So comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 goes a long way with helping the channel run smoothly. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. Sorry once again for the humming in the background.